All right, can you see my screen? Yes, awesome. Welcome everybody. My name is Jasmine Hernandez. I am the Assistant Director for Undocumented Student Services. And I also would like for you all to know other staff that are on the team, starting with Daniela. She is our program consultant. She does a lot of the collaborations across campus for presentations and workshops. We also have Karina Avalos. This is our USS academic counselor. So if any students ever need any support or guidance, they could definitely meet with Karina. And then we have Ritu, who is here presenting with me. They are our staff attorney and they work directly with USM. A little bit about our undocumented.
Jasmine, we're seeing a screen where I think you have to click present.
Oh no.
We're seeing the first slide, but it's a look up. Yeah, that's better. Thanks.
Okay. It might not let me do the full screen then. Okay, so these are our services. Give me 1 second. There is another box in my way. These are our services that we have for undocumented students. So as I mentioned, we do have our USS counselor. We also have peer mentorship. So we have interns that work with us and can also support other students on campus. We also have quarterly presentations, workshops, and some social events that students can participate in. A lot of that information does go out on our social media as well as our newsletter that is goes out bi-weekly. So if anybody or any students are interested in learning more about our services or workshops that are happening throughout the quarter, this is a great way to stay informed. And like I mentioned, we do have our legal assistants, and Ritu is here to support students, any immediate family of students, as well as any immediate staff that may need the support. It is free of charge. And like I mentioned, they do work directly under USM. And then we also have multiple types of funding resources that are available to students, such as emergency funding, or if they want to do any professional development opportunities, we're also able to support with that. More contact information. So at the bottom, you'll see our email, EOP AB540 at ucsc.edu. I also want to mention we're located in the ARC building. So in order for you to be able to find us, you go to the ARC. We have the EOP lobby. EOP works along with USS. Any students that are considered USS are also considered EOP. You can talk to the administrative receptionist and they can guide you towards our offices, as well as there is a study space upstairs for students to be able to access, and that one's open to all EOP USS students. And then here's a little map of how to find our building. I know it's pretty far from the rest of the central campus, but we do encourage students to come to our offices, and especially if they need to find any of our services. We will also mention that Ritu just relocated, so if there needs, if any students need to find Ritu, feel free to reach out to us. Great.
Thank you. I'm going to share mine now. At share. Yes. You can see it?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm going to present. Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to our Know Your Rights webinar series. We've been doing these once a month. This is our third. And we just thought it would be an opportunity to do it monthly, so it's an opportunity for people to come. Also come again if you want to hear the information again. We will be providing the slides and the recording to everyone who signed up, and then also USS will distribute it through their channels. So I'm gonna get started. So this is our presentation, information over fear, knowing your rights and how to use them. want to introduce myself. So I am with the UC Immigrant Legal Services Center, and I am the staff attorney with UC Santa Cruz. So UC Immigrant Legal Services Center, we also call USIM, is based at a UC Davis Law School, and we serve 9 out of the 10 UC campuses. UC Berkeley is served by another organization. And while we're at UC Davis, a bunch of attorneys work remotely on different campuses and partner with services on campus. So here we partner with EOP and USS, and I provide free immigration legal services for UCSC students and their immediate family members. So that's spouse, parent, sibling, child, and also for UCSC staff for their personal cases, personal immigration cases. We have a small team I wanted to introduce today. So Dana Alvarez Hernandez is our USS USIM legal intern. So this is a collaboration with Undocumented Student Services. And this is a student, undergraduate student at UCSC. And she supports with client casework, administrative tasks, and also with the workshops. Also, I am honored to be working with Gabby Sison, who is a law student extern working with us remotely. So if you work with me, you may be working with Gabby, and Gabby supports me with casework and also with legal research. So I wanted to give a content advisory about basically the whole presentation. Unfortunately, the whole time we're going to be discussing worst case scenario, so it is hard to hear. It's hard for me to even talk about. So take care of your needs, breathe, take breaks if you need to. This will be recorded. And do note down your questions so we can answer them later on. So the goals for today is to understand who's at risk of arrest and detention by immigration, understanding what rights you have if you come into contact with immigration, knowing how to use your rights in the presence of an immigration officer, and then also to provide resources. So we'll start with who's at risk of arrest and detention. So it's important to note to arrest someone, immigration has to have reason to believe that the person is undocumented or deportable, because for example, you could have status but committed a crime or fallen out of status. And so these arrests happen for kind of two reasons. One is that immigration already has information about a person. So they may already have a final order of removal, but the person did not leave. And so were violated in terms of a visa. And so they're able to find the person. And I know we're watching in the news, this is happening where people are being targeted personally. Other times it happens where there may be just raids or just ICE presence, and then the non-citizen admits to being in the country without status, or carrying something showing that they're a citizen of another country. And we're going to talk about that the second scenario we have more control over, because it's really immigration's job to have reason to believe, and we don't need to give it to them. So some immigrants are at greater risk for coming into contact with immigration. Undocumented immigrants who have committed a crime, again, those immigrants can be targeted because of the criminal record. As I talked about, undocumented immigrants with a prior deportation order, because that order can be enforced at any time. Immigrants with status, including green card holders who've been convicted of certain crimes, and non-immigrant visa holders like student visas, who have violated the terms of their visa. So you get the trend is criminal activity, and then also if you violated your status here. So who has rights in the United States? Every person in the United States, every human, regardless of their immigration status, has constitutional rights. And so that's what I was alluding to. That's what we have to lean into. So then to not do ICE's job for them. What rights do we have? So under the US Constitution, the Fourth Amendment is the right against unreasonable searches and seizures. So I'm going to talk about this at length in a bit, but this is that ICE and law enforcement cannot enter a person's home to search without a warrant or your permission. And so again, if they have the warrant and that's a judicial warrant from a judge, they can do that. However, if we give permission, that's also a way around it. So that's what we have control over. We have rights to not give permission. Fifth Amendment is the right to remain silent, which maybe many people have heard of. And so ICE can only deport you if they have proof you're not a US citizen. And so you don't need to tell them. You have a right to due process. to fight your case. You have a right to refuse to sign documents or to give documents. And then the Sixth Amendment is a right to an attorney. Unfortunately, there's no right to have a attorney appointed to you by the government, like in criminal law. So you have to find an attorney who's free, or you have to pay for one. And you have the right to be advised on how criminal charges will affect your immigration options. So if you are a non-citizen of the United States and you are um, you're in criminal court, is you have a right to tell your public defender, tell your attorney to speak with an immigration attorney, because that criminal attorney may not know how you plead. It might be good for their case, but it may not be helpful for your current or future immigration. So we're going to start with understanding your rights at home, and we'll start that. And so an immigration officer, like I said, cannot enter your home unless they have a valid judicial warrant or someone in your house gives them permission. They rarely have a judicial warrant. It's hard to get. I'm going to go through it. They rarely do. They might say they do. They might show other documents. Usually what happens, how they get into people's home, is people open the door. And it's very understandable. It's intimidating, but just to know, and it's your decision what you do in the moment for your own safety. You don't need to give permission to ICE or anyone. It's kind of like for anyone, you don't need to open the door. I'm pretty much an introvert. I don't like to open the door, so just be an introvert. You don't have to open the door. If they have a warrant, we're going to go through some more slides. They can show it to you, but you do not need to answer the door. So if immigration is at your door, you have um, the right to keep your door closed. You can ask them through the door why they're there. Don't let them trick you into thinking they're the police. Often they do. They're like police, and they'll kind of come at strange times, like really early in the morning, and wake you up. You have the right to ask for an interpreter if you don't understand what's happening. You have the right to ask for a warrant, and then review the document and confirm it's a judicial warrant. I think um, that's one of the main things I want to get across today. You have a right to look at the documents and decide if it is what is required. So you have the right to review the document while keeping the door closed. So you can ask them to slide the document under the door, hold it up to a window for you to read it. So here is an image that is, from 2014. It's been going around. Same thing. So this is a search warrant. And if you see on top, it's from a California court. So it's from a court. It's not from immigration. And so this is another example. And so it's a United States District Court. It should have the name of the person on there. It should be signed by a judge, not an ICE agent or an immigration judge. So an ICE warrant, it's not a judicial warrant. So judicial warrant signed by a judge. ICE warrant, they'd have a document with this called a warrant, but it's not a warrant. So warrant of removal, just it's not the same warrant that they can search your house. So if they have this, do not let them in. Tell them to come back with a judicial warrant and then talk with an attorney. This is also another ICE warrant. It's issued by the Homeland Security, as you can see on top, and then it says warrant for arrest. Um, Again, that's not sufficient to enter your home. It's not a search warrant. And then this is signed by an immigration officer, not a judge. So if immigration does enter your home, let's say, you do let them in, that, you didn't understand who was there, you didn't know, and you felt safer letting them in, you still have rights. You can do your best to stay calm, do not run because you don't want to interfere with their job. So don't interfere with their obstructing officer. Don't physically confront them. Don't lie or give false documents. Um, I know often we panic and we do things like that, but that can make it worse later on, lying or giving false documents. So do remember the details of the encounter or write them down right afterward. So you have the right to remain silent. This means that you can choose not to answer questions about your citizenship or immigration status. So if you do have status, you do have a choice to show your documents if that is what you would like to do. So if you have a green card, or if you have DACA and you want to show those documents, you do have the right to do so, but you don't have to. So your rights at work. So we talked about home. So work, and this is also relevant for our UC campuses. There's a delineation between public and private spaces. So public spaces is like being on the street, ICE can enter without a warrant. That is not a private space. In a private space, ICE needs a judicial warrant or the employer's permission to enter. So this is something you have to, for your jobs, you have to find out from your employer. I'm going to have some slides later for our UC campus. That's not in my role, but you can also find out what is public and private on our campus. So employers and employees should know your rights. Again, don't run. You can ask if you're under arrest, and if you're not, you can calmly leave. Otherwise, you have the right to remain silent. So even if ICE is present, you don't need to speak with ICE, and you can ask to leave. And again, they can't arrest you unless they have reason to believe. So ICE present at the UCs on campuses. So every campus has a protocol for responding to ICE enforcement. Most protocols, and I think it is this way for UC Santa Cruz, it involves reaching out to campus council and or the UC Police Department. And so for our campus, I'm distinguishing between students and staff. So for students, if you see ICE presence, call the Dean of Students at that number. That's an emergency number I have on here, 831-502-5009. And then for staff, if you work for the UC, you should call campus council because campus council is your attorney. And that number is 831-459-1848. And students also should contact me, and I have my information at the end. So your rights while driving, people ask me this often. So in California, in every state, you need a license to drive and registration. So the police can stop you and ask you for this. In California, police cannot ask you about your immigration status. So if you're not sure if that person's a police officer, ask to see their badge. If you don't have a driver's license, what you can do, because you're not allowed to drive, you can ask if you can park your car and have somebody pick you up. If you're undocumented and immigration stops you while driving, you have the right to remain silent, but do not give false information. Also, they cannot search your car without a warrant. So if you if you do have status and ICE stops you, you have the right to show your documents, your green card, your work permit, any other documents. Your rights in the street. So this is like a public space. So if you encounter immigration in the street, don't run. You have a right to ask if you're being detained. If you are, follow the instructions. If not, you can ask to leave. Again, you have the right to remain silent. You're not required to ask questions, and you can say, I don't want to, or I want my attorney present. If you're arrested. So it's kind of like two levels. I wanted to kind of review. So you have a right to remain silent. So then hopefully you're not arrested. That's the goal. Because if ICE doesn't have any reason to believe, they cannot arrest you. So hopefully you don't have that conversation, you're able to walk away. But if you're arrested, then do stay calm and polite. Don't interfere with that arrest. Don't physically confront the officer. Again, still don't give any false documents. Also, we're encouraging people to not carry any false documents or carry any documents with false information, because if you are arrested and that's taken from you, that can be used against you. So remember the details of the encounter, and then you have a right to record any arrest. There's many apps right now. The ACLU has a mobile justice app that records on your phone and directly sends that footage over to the ACLU, so you do have a right to do that. So if you are arrested and you're taken into custody, you may be taken to the nearest immigration processing center or other immigration facility. Most of the detention centers are in Southern California, so they may take you to an office. They'll likely search you and anything on your person. So be aware of what you're carrying. So if you're carrying your legal documents, they can see that. But if you're carrying other documents, like I said, that are false or not yours, they will find them. At the processing center, they'll take your fingerprints. You'll be asked more questions. You still have the right to remain silent. ICE can issue you a charging document called a notice to appear if they believe that you're undocumented, and will start a process for deportation, and they have the authority to decide whether to hold you in detention or release you. So immigration has a lot of discretion at this point. And if you are a student well, anyone, but especially if you're a student or a staff at UC Santa Cruz, contact me and UC Immigrant Legal Services Center um, right away, because we may be able to intervene and help have you released, especially if you're a student. We can show that, that you're not a danger, that you need to get back to school, all of those things. And at that time, so yeah, they don't need to hold you. So at that time, ask for an attorney, we're going to talk about safety planning. You can ask to call a family member who can call us. But it's really important you communicate to people where you are, because that time is very short, maybe just like 24 hours, whether they decide to detain you. So advocate for yourself during that time. So you always have the right to remain silent. I'm going to keep saying that. You have the right to call a lawyer or your family. So these phone lines, it depends on where you are, may not be confidential. Some of them actually are, but they may not be confidential. So we suggest you don't need to talk about your case or what happened or where you're from or your status. Just say where you are. So you can call a family member or a lawyer and just say where you are located. If you know, like whatever you know, I think sometimes people have a number assigned to them, or they maybe have an officer assigned to them. Whatever information you have, that's really important for what I just said, for someone to intervene and help get you released. So you don't have to sign any documents until you consult with an attorney. Many people are eligible to be released on bond, which is basically a bail. Um, but there have been changes to that, which we're going to talk about. You can, a kind of an exception to the right to remain silent, you can ask to see a judge and ask for a bond. You can just always ask for those things. Be like, I want to see a judge. I want to be released on bond. If you have a prior deportation order, you can be removed because you've already been ordered deported, so you don't have that right to fight in court. However, there is an exception if you fear returning to your country. So if you're afraid of being hurt in your country, you have to state that clearly and repeatedly, because we've heard they don't follow the law, and ask to speak with an attorney and ask for an interview about your fear of return. So at that moment, this is like a scary time, but at this time when you're being decided, when you're being detained, or if you're going to be, or order is going to be executed, this is your time to say that you're afraid. And it should be, if you say you're afraid, that should trigger another process for asylum. But you might need to repeatedly say it, ask to speak with an attorney, because then they cannot execute the order without doing an interview. There is something called expedited removal. So what I talked about with the notice to appear and going to court and finding and having an attorney, that is just like the regular removal process. But there is another like carve out called expedited removal, which basically is a rapid deportation process, and you don't have any due process, and you don't have the right to appear in front of a judge. And so this was a limited, well, I think we'll talk about it later, but this was limited to kind of the border. Used to be a certain distance from the border, but now it's been expanded. So these are some exceptions, not some exceptions. These are some expansions of what's happening. So it used to be just near the border, but now it's for anyone who's been in the US for less than 2 years. So we are encouraging people to carry evidence that they've been in the US for more than 2 years if you have. So mailed at your home address, church records, school records. Again, don't carry any false documents or any documents with any false information. And also carry evidence of your lawful entry, your lawful status. If you have any pending applications, carry that evidence. And so we say to carry it, but you only show it if you've been taken into custody. Remember, the first step is you're remaining silent and you're asking to walk away. You're not going to be arrested. That's the goal. But if you are arrested, then you will have this on your person, and then you can show it. Because of that quick turnaround, you can advocate for yourself and show that you've been here. And again, you can also ask for that you're afraid to return, and ask for that interview. So this is new law, which we haven't had new laws in a long time, but it's called the Lake and Riley Act, and this is says that some immigrants will be detained without the opportunity to ask for release. So we talked about that discretion, right? And if you're detained, then you could ask for that bond and ask for release from custody. However, if you've been arrested for and charged with certain crimes, and some of these are not very serious crimes. So there's burglary, theft, shoplifting. So these kinds of crimes, then you can be detained without an opportunity to ask for release. And so this does not apply to people who are green card holders, refugees, and if you entered on a visa. So I just whipped through all of that stuff. I have a video now to kind of review everything that I just talked about. It's just a few minutes.
It was 5:30 a.m. when ICE came to Esther's apartment. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The agents lied to Esther, saying they were police officers investigating a crime and her husband, Alexei, was a potential witness. "Is Alexei home?" they asked innocently. Now Esther's gut told her she should cooperate, but she remembered something she'd heard on the radio. ICE had been making early morning sweeps using tricks like this to get people to open their doors. Esther remembered she had rights. ICE may try similar tricks at your home. They may say they're looking for a friend, relative, or roommate. But do not be fooled, and do not open the door. Instead, remain calm and be polite. Tell the agents that you'd like to see a warrant and their ID. Ask them to slip these documents under the door or hold them up to the peephole. Without a warrant signed by a judge, ICE is not allowed to enter or search your home. ICE usually won't have a warrant, but they may lie and say they do or show you something else that looks official. So look carefully and take pictures of whatever they show you. If they refuse to share any of these documents, then ask them for their card and contact information. Do not show the agents anything or say anything except, "I do not consent for you to enter my home. I do not want to talk to you without a lawyer present. Please leave." Now, ICE won't always listen to you and may enter your home using force. But saying these things might help you in court, even if the agents don't listen. The other videos in this series will help you understand your rights if ICE enters your home or arrests you. Esther and Alexei knew their rights, and the officers left. This is all scary, but remember, we have rights. After an encounter with ICE, take notes about what happened, writing down as many details as you can remember. This information might be helpful in future immigration proceedings. It's important that you and your loved ones are prepared for encounters with ICE, and that you have a plan for what to do if one of you is arrested, including information about who to call. If ICE comes to your home, remember, you have rights. Do not open the door. Ask to see a warrant signed by a judge. Tell them you do not consent to them being at your home. Please leave. If a loved one is arrested, you should be able to locate them at locator.ice.gov.
That was... How do I go? Okay, so I want to switch to talking about, like they said in the video, talking about safety planning. And so I wanted to reiterate too, like I'm an immigration attorney, but unfortunately I can only come in if something happens. Really, all of you here, allies, immigrants yourselves, like you're the ones who have all the power to have a plan in case something happens or like hopefully something doesn't. And really reach out to all the services out there that may not be legal. So let's talk about some safety planning. So you want to make a plan to follow if you are detained, because it's a stressful time. So identify who to call and have like a contact person for your family. Our director says like picking the family member who you know is going to answer the phone. So who's the reliable person? Who's that person in your family who can help coordinate, memorize their phone number. Um, and then make sure that that person knows what steps to take. For example, calling an attorney, giving them name of an attorney, calling another family member. So just have a communication plan in your family. Collect and secure important documents that you may need for the attorney, um, or just you may need them for what other reasons we're going to talk about too. So your IDs, birth certificates, marriage certificates, school records, immigration records. So you can share these with a lawyer, but also other adults to keep them safe. You might want to put them in some kind of virtual space and share that with people so then they can access it if you are detained. So also plan who will tend to young children and other responsibilities like financial responsibilities. People ask me about their younger siblings. Kids may be at school when parents are detained. And so kind of make a plan for who's going to pick the kids up at school. Um, Legal assistance, make sure that an adult knows how to contact an immigration attorney. There are also, like I talked about, there are non-legal resources like rapid response networks, and I have this in another slide. And that is for like that immediate response. Because again, I'm one person, I will do my best. But the rapid response networks are there for like if there is ICE presence, they can be there to help advocate. These are volunteers who are trained and know the laws, and they can exercise your rights to remain silent, and they can also help facilitate communication. So save money for legal other expenses and share the plan with other family members. So carry red cards. We have red cards all over campus. You can also go online and print them out. And this is basically a little card that has, and they're in different languages, has a card with your constitutional rights that we talked about, your right to remain silent, right for an attorney, right to not be searched. And this is kind of it's for you to be prepared so you can have it and you can like literally read it, but also you can just give it to the ICE officer. You can, if an ICE officer shows up at your door, you can slide it under your door and they know about it. So they know you're asserting your rights at that moment. And as you saw in the video, even if they don't listen, the fact that you asserted your rights will help you later on when you're fighting your case. So, and there's other resources I'm going to talk about later too. There's an app that can help with this too. So identify a rapid response network in your area. There is one in Santa Cruz, and memorize or carry that number, but they're all over California or wherever your family lives. So find out the ones closest. Um, as I said, don't carry documents with false information or from a different country. It's a little tricky. And that's why I would want to speak with you one-on-one if you have questions about that, because if you do carry like a passport, that may be evidence. I mean, that is evidence that you were not born here. So you may not want to carry it, but at the same time, that may be your ID for other reasons for travel. So it's case by case. But carry another valid document. So a school ID is good. If you have a work permit or green card, carry those. And then, as I mentioned, documents that you lived in the United States for the last 2 years. So utility bills, memberships, not with false information though. So you have rights. You have the right to continue your education in California. It's it's a legal right to go to school regardless of status. Your children have a right to go to school. Don't let fear deter you from doing your daily activities. Don't give up services that you're otherwise eligible for. The probability of arrest, I've been saying I've had the same slide for the last few months, and I still stand by this, that the probability is relatively low for most people. We're hearing lots of stuff in the media. It is true. It is complicated. But really, it's information over fear. If you're prepared, that's all you can do. And so we encourage you to live your lives, and it's not, the probability is still low unless you're in those high categories that we talked about, that you committed certain crimes or you're violated your visa. So knowing your rights and having a plan is the best defense. So I wanted to give a little policy update. There's a lot of new policies, but I'm choosing one that I think you all are probably curious about. So I want to talk about the alien registration requirement. I'm going to give you some information, and if you're a non-citizen and you have questions about whether this requirement applies to you, please seek a legal consultation from a trusted legal services provider, so an attorney or an accredited legal representative. So it's been law for a long time that certain non-citizens have to register with the government for being present in the US. That requirement has been here, but there was never a process. So for many years there wasn't a process, so there was nothing you could really do. But what's different now, what was announced in March, is there's a new process for citizens to register with the federal government if they have not previously registered. So this involves completing an online form, providing information to the government, including your immigration history, and you get fingerprinted by Department of Homeland Security. And this requirement becomes effective April 11th. We can talk about this in the Q&A. I don't have more information than that. You can't do it now. We don't know if it will be blocked. But at this moment, that's what the information is. But I'll give you more details. So who's required to register? So non-citizens who are not registered when you're applying for a visa. So if you're when you applied for a visa to come to the US, that was a type of registration. But if you entered if you entered without inspection, without having a visa, without being inspected by an immigration officer, and you have not registered by submitting some kind of application, you may be required to register. Children below the age of 14 who are in the United States with their parents who are on temporary visas are required to register. So this is just some examples. It's not everybody, but I just pulled these out. And any non-citizen, regardless of previous registration, who turns 14 must update their registration. So 14 is an important age. So if somebody is over 14 now and weren't fingerprinted before, they need to do it within 30 days. Even if you're a green card holder, if you got that green card before age 14, you'll need to register. Who does not need to register, and this is really important, where I encourage everyone to speak with an attorney to see you may not be required to register. So that means you already registered. You don't need to do this process because you already registered under another process. And again, this is not a complete list, but these are some people who are already registered. So lawful permanent resident, this is a green card holder. If you got your status after age 14 or you renewed your status after your 14th birthday. If you were paroled into the United States, so you had some permission to come into the United States, even if that parole expired. If you were issued a form I-94, and this used to be a little white card. This is a legal entry into the United States, maybe with a visa. It used to be a white card, but also it can be electronic. Then even if your stay expired, you are already registered. If you were placed into removal proceedings in the past, you have already registered. If you have an employment authorization document, this is a work permit, and I think a lot of people will fall under this category. You have already registered. If you applied for lawful permanent residence, so an application for a green card, even if it was denied, you have already registered. If you're issued a border crossing card, you already registered. And there are other exceptions. So please talk to someone to see if you already registered. So what happens if you're required to register and you do not register? So failure to register can have potential criminal and immigration consequences. So there's a misdemeanor prosecution, jail time, a fine, and also it could prevent you from obtaining lawful status in the future. That's why it's important to talk with an attorney if you may be eligible for a status or you have applied for a status, to kind of consider what's best for you. So in the law, it lists that failure to register can be punished with a fine up to $5,000 or up to 6 months imprisonment. Failure to carry the proof. So the requirement is that you register and then carry proof of registration. So back to what we were talking about status, that you want to carry proof of your status. So if you have a work permit, if you are a green card holder, carry that document. If you have applied for something, carry your proof. Because that can be punished with also a fine and imprisonment. Another requirement that's been around for a long time is a change of address. Again, the enforcement wasn't that strong, but we believe it's going to now be with this new requirement. It's another way they can um, punish people. So if you have if you're a non-citizen, you are required to notify the government of your change of address, and that can be done online. And if you do not do that, you have to do it within 10 days, and you could be punished with a fine or imprisonment. Again, talk with an attorney if you have moved and not updated your address. You can still do it even if it's after the 10 days. So speak with an attorney if that's something that you would like to do, and talk about the pros and cons of that. So of course, this question is not so easy. Like, I'm telling you what the law is, but then what is the risk of registering? So the government could try to arrest and deport people using the information they provide, and it can also put people at risk for revealing information that violates other laws, right? You're filling out an application, and then they'll have that information. Non-citizens who have questions about whether this requirement applies to them should seek a legal consultation from a trusted provider. So as legal providers, we are going to tell you the law. We're not going to tell you what to do. We cannot tell you to break the law. But we can at least speak with you to see that you have all the information to make the decision that's best for you. It's a really hard situation for everybody, but we do encourage you to get all the information that you can so you can decide what to do and be informed to help your family. So I wanted to go into some resources I had mentioned before. So the video I played before is part of this series from the ACLU with the We Have Rights. And these were done a long time ago, before this administration, and they're in multiple languages. It's really great. This is something you can play in your classrooms, share with your families, and they're really digestible. So I encourage you to look at those. The red cards that we talked about, they are available for students, UC affiliates on campus. And then there's this Know Your Rights app that I mentioned. So it's available for iPhone and Android, and it has it's a very simple app. It basically has 16 languages. You have it on your phone, and then you can it'll play your rights. So you don't have to speak it. If you're nervous or you don't speak English, you can have the app assert your rights. And this is the QR code to get that app. Family planning. So there's a packet that's linked here from the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, ILRC. You can also look them up, and that could help. It's way more than I went into today, but there's things like a caregiver authorization, and sometimes so you don't need to give guardianship. You don't need to go to court. You can literally, it's even less than a power of attorney. It's basically a permission slip, and this is really important for and if you're taking care of someone else's child or a sibling, that way you can enroll them in school, you can travel with the child. It's just permission that you can do beforehand, signed by the parents, giving another trusted adult permission to take care of. That's part of that packet. The ICE detainee locator that was on the screen in the video is there if you want to find people. And then the response hotlines. Yeah, so most counties have these response networks, and there are volunteers who can help in the moment, and you can find that out. And then if you are affiliated with a UC, contact your USIM campus attorney. So I'm the one for UC Santa Cruz, but if you have any, if you know any people who are affiliated with other UCs, they also have attorneys for their campus. And so this is us, whether you see Immigrant Legal Services Center, these are the campuses we serve. You can go to our website and then click for UC Santa Cruz to book an appointment. The community colleges also have access to legal services, immigration legal services, Cal States and the community colleges. So you can go to those websites. And then for people not affiliated with any of those, you can go to the National Immigrant Legal Services Directory, which is immigrationadvocates.org, to find an immigration attorney for free or private attorneys. So I got through the content. We have time for questions. I'm going to stop sharing. You can put your questions in the Q&A. Did I do so great? No questions. Are they so clear?
While we wait for questions, I do want to mention once again, this is being recorded. Oh, actually, you could stop the recording, Read too.
That's right.